Hi guys, and welcome back to 2020. Now what an exciting year with a very nice number. And so I have to start with something really cool. And that something is this. Now Rebor is a UK company that's been around a while. And while they've produced many models, I've never really got into their aesthetic. They're well known for being very detailed, but sometimes, and this is a personal feeling, I find they force too much detail to the extent that many figures have inappropriately large scales. Now I did get the 𝘧𝘧𝘷𝘰𝘶𝘪𝘵, but the feet on those were too large. I was excited when they released an Ankylosaurus, but when I saw the proportions on that, I was really disappointed. And so that was it for me, for Rebor, until now. Now, all Rebor's figures come in a very nice black box with a dinosaur silhouette, and the back has the models they've already released. And you can see there's quite a few. Now inside, there's a foam insert, and that pads the figure out very nicely. The advantage is that this presentable box makes it suitable for a gift or even for reselling in the future. Now I found it strange that Rebor decided to use the species name Stegosaurus amartus, which is now considered nomen dubium. I'd expected them to use Stegosaurus stenopes instead. And much like PNSO nicknames their dinosaurs, so does Rebor. And Garden is the name of their Stegosaurus, which confused me a while because there are 3 variants of this Stegosaurus, and I thought that Garden was one of those variants. They have the plain, the mountain, and this one, which is the Woodland. And I think you can agree, looking at these pictures, that they are beautiful. Now each is wonderfully painted in their own way, so it was a very hard choice. But in the end, because I always wanted an updated Stegosaurus in the traditional colors, I went with this. So this figure measures about 27 centimeters long, which is about 10.6 inches, and is 13.5 centimeters tall, which is 5.3 inches. Now, if we take the usual estimation of 9 meters for a fully grown Stegosaurus, that makes this a 1 in 33 scale. But if we use Stegosaurus stenopes with a length of 7 meters, this is really more a 1 in 25 scale. So let's look at this figure, starting with the main reason I really wanted this, the plates. And I think you can see why. Now look at the beautiful diamond shape with the reddish tones, tipped in this darker shade at the top, and how they really just imbue this Stegosaurus with a kind of flaming aura. This, my friends, is an immediate statement. Now there is an absolutely organic look here of these keratinous structures with their growth lines. Now, do they look familiar? Well, if you followed my channel for a while, you probably remember this other character. That's right, the sideshow Stegosaurus. Now, most Stego figures, if they do include any plate texture, really just etch in some vertical lines like this Old Wild Safari here, and even in the new one, which I call Sophie, as you can see here. And I guess it's better than nothing, but Sideshow created a work of art on another whole new level. Now the detail is spectacular. Well, Rebor has done almost exactly the same thing in a model that's much smaller and cheaper. The detail is spectacular, right? You've got vertical lines here that aren't just etched in shallow lines, but they look like real living grooves. And of course, my favorite feature, these growth lines here. Now, I've just switched off one of the lights so you can actually see them a lot better. You look at these growth lines here, very reminiscent of what we saw in Sideshow. Here, they're absolutely beautiful. And if you tilt them on the side, you'll see how these growth lines create a kind of stacked structure going up the plate. And the color really is just a work of art. lights on again. Now, look at that. You can see how naturalistic they look, with all kinds of shades and hues that all transition really smoothly. And I even see a hint of green in the bottom middle section of each plate. And that creates a kind of echo with the green in the body. There are exactly 17 plates, which is a commonly agreed on number. I think I've seen estimates from 17 to 22. And even the smallest ones here have color variations. And you can well imagine that if in fact the function of these plates was primarily as a display structure, then these colors aid that function admirably. Now, over it all is a gloss, which is why it was a bit hard for me to show you the growth plate lines earlier, but there is a gloss covering all the plates. And it's almost suggestive of polished horn, which does detract a little from the lived-in look I like in my dinosaur models, but damn, who can complain about this? Now, the beauty of this array is so alluring, I could just stare at it for hours. Now, there's only one negative I can see, and it's actually from here. Now, can you see it? Well, it's actually the positioning of these plates. Okay? These ones on the left and this one here on the right. They just seem to be a little too close to the midline. And the only way I can imagine that happening is that they came off the neural spines themselves. Now, to be sure, no one may ever know what the proper orientation was, but yet you have these other ones that are more lateral to the midline. So I'm left wondering if this was a deliberate choice. Now, that said, it's just nitpicking, because I'm honestly not going to display it positioned like this. I'm going to be looking at it from any of these other angles. And obviously, I think I'll be looking at it from the side. Now, I could go on forever about the plates, but let's move to the rest of the animal. And I think you can see that compared to the plates, the body is very matte in appearance, which is a nice contrast, but no less phenomenally painted. The green has a counter-shaded effect with a darker green towards the dorsal and a lighter green transitioning towards the ventral. There are so many shades of green, and the layers of washes all hinting at a kind of translucency of skin that this really looks like a very real animal. But that's not all. You also have distinct patterning that adds even more interest. Now, most noticeably are these side spots here. And also these green-black stripes running down here, like the disruptive coloration in tigers and zebras. There's also a line of white speckles up top here. And I think these, besides adding a nice contrast to the green, also mirror and balance out these darker spots here very nicely indeed. And that's really the case with the entire animal. There is nothing slipshod, and you don't feel like any shortcuts have been taken. If you look at these toes, I'm not sure if it comes out clearly, but even these toenails aren't just one uniform color. There's a fade in the grays and the and the whitish paint over here. So it looks really nice and really stands up to scrutiny even up close. And as for the detail, well, it's incredible. Of course, you get the expected scales, and they do vary in size appropriately throughout the animal, so there's no lazy uniformity here. They also, I think, flow very nicely with the skin folds here, down the flanks of the animal. And you can see that these skin folds also vary in terms of how deep or shallow they are with respect to region and how much flex is in the body part of the animal. So the flow lines look very natural and nothing looks forced. Very nice indeed. In the belly, you'll see a very nice mosaic of scales. And speaking of mosaics, here is another nice mosaic of ossicles, armor, right in the throat, which is something modern reconstructions tend to include. Look at that fine detail. I'll show you on the other side. Here. Not only is each ossicle nicely delineated, there is a kind of a black underwash beneath, so that makes them just pop out in even bolder relief. And speaking of delineation, you can look at the eyes, the nostril, and also even the ear. And you can make all this out with no difficulty. The eyes, even on this very, very small size, are very nicely painted. Which is very important to me because this is an area often botched in other models. There's also a circle of white around the eye, which kind of makes it look like a sclerotic ring. Now, some artistic license has been taken in the form of these extra scutes here. The arm, the forearm here, on the shins of the animal. And such artistic license was taken by Sideshow as well, in the forelimb and tricep area. So again, it seems like much inspiration was taken from that Sideshow. Again, these are speculative as far as I know. I'll just say that for some reason, the way the color highlights them just doesn't seem very aesthetic to me. It's almost like these are some kind of parasitic growths. And if you were to read Mark Whitten's Paleoartist Handbook, there's really no reason why they should be of a different color. But well, hey, artistic license, and maybe over time this will grow on me. Now with this attention to detail, I'm surprised that the forefeet here have all their toes clawed, which is a little bit disappointing. That should not be the case. The forelimbs, the outer toes on the forelimbs should not be clawed. And this is one of those details I look for ever since I started learning about dinosaur anatomy. So maybe it's just a case of a little knowledge being dangerous. Now the tail actually comes separately, like that. So you'll get your figure in two pieces, and fortunately it, I think, joins quite seamlessly. But other than that, I have to say that this really does look marvelous. The musculature of the base of the tail, where the caudofemoralis muscles are, is pleasingly broad, and together with the bulk of the thighs, really speak to the power of this animal to move as well as to deal serious business at the other end. And it certainly got my vote for having the best gastroc muscles in the dinosaur bodybuilding wars. Again, in terms of consistency, you'll see that the plates on the tail are as lovingly detailed and sculpted as these other plates are. So that really speaks to the quality in this animal. And there's one thing I really like. the 𝘧𝘢𝘷𝘰𝘶𝘳𝘪𝘵𝘦 here. Now just, besides of course the color, the way the green here just fades into this cream color here, and you also have a different color on the underside. What I really love about it is that the spikes are oriented horizontally, which is where it would be most useful, as the animal swung it from side to side. And two, because they look realistically sharp, unlike the very disappointing blunters on Sophie here. And yet, because they're made of rubber, they're still relatively safe. But I, for one, would never put any of my dinosaurs within easy reach of children. Now, one note of interest is that there is actually some articulation in this model. You have some in the neck here and also in the tail. So that means it's probably got some sort of wire armature underneath. Now, I tried moving the neck, and let's say I'm not inspired with confidence that it won't mess up the paint and cause cracking on the sides. But at least here in the tail, it's actually a lot easier, and hence I would say safer to do so. And this is great, not just because it increases posability, but also if you get the other variants, and I'm so tempted to get the mountain variant, well, you can pose them differently and they won't look like facsimiles of each other. Now, as for the base, there are 3 variants depending on which model you get. Now, mine being the Woodland, the base has an appropriately green mossy theme to it, which balances out so nicely the greens in the body here. And there are broken branches, some rocks, and even on the side, they've bothered to create a layered look to the rock. The base actually has some heft to it, so it feels really quality. And flipping over, you'll see here it says Woodland, which is my variant. Finally, I want to talk about the pose. Now, this is a very dynamic model, and in all dimensions, and from any angle, it's beautiful. Now, the head position here, looking to the side and slightly up, is like a subtle cue of movement as the animal searches perhaps for food or cocks an ear to listen to some noise. And generally, this is really a beautiful dinosaur with beautiful proportions, detail, and there's no shirking in detail or care of paint application anywhere. The general color scheme follows the traditional green body rake plate scheme I've known since I was a little kid, and yet updates it in a way that still makes it cool and exciting. And it's almost like having that mini version of Sideshow I've always wanted, and it's really both inspiring and energizing to look at. It's on my work table right now, and it just puts me in a good, motivating mood. And if you get him, I hope he will inspire the same in you as well. It just would be really fantastic if Rebor released an Allosaurus in the same scale to the same exacting standards. And man, that would be such an awesome diorama to have on my work table, although I doubt I'll get any work done. So that's it for this review. I hope you've been having a great 2020 so far and well on your way to accomplishing your goals. And I'll see you soon with another video.